Hey, welcome on in to Bleacher Talk special show today. We're trying out some new software, so bear with us here. But Jordan Spurgeon alongside Claudia Collins. And Claudia, the playoffs, they're here. Regular season over.
Finally. I am so excited, and I honestly feel like this is kind of one of the most fun seasons that we've had the opportunity to cover. There's been a lot of upsets this season. There's been some surprises, some things that we probably could have predicted. But overall, we watched the selection show this morning. Zach Elvira, everyone who was a part of it did a great job with that. But we're just going to jump in and start talking about all of these brackets. We've got a couple of guests lined up to join us. Like we said, kind of a new system we're working with here. So bear with us as we get into it. But let's start with taking a look at that 4A bracket. Really interesting one. I think the most interesting thing, and we've got some guests from there, Canyon del Oro. That's a team that we saw like jump in and out of the open brackets. And now they're number 2. And they'll be playing Poston Butte. Should be a really fun matchup. Spurge, initial thoughts on just the way that lined up.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're getting ready to talk to two guys right now, but this is just the way things are shaping out. The computer, in my opinion, has been all over the place. And I know the AIA has set guidelines, but I don't know if we all quite understand what they are, or even if they quite understand how they work fully throughout the years. So lesson learned, I think until the final stuff comes out, there's no reason to overreact to different things, because week to week, we can see teams go from 4 to 10 back to 4, and it's just kind of chaotic. So like a lot of things, just don't stress. Things are going to shape out the way they're supposed to at the end of the year. And this is the 4A playoff we get. So this is, as some would say, a true 4A playoff this season.
Yes, I would have to fully agree with that. What I find really interesting, like I said, was that Canyon del Oro is number 2 after kind of being in that open slot. Number 1, Yuma Catholic. They've got the same undefeated record, super impressive. I saw Yuma Catholic against Marcos Deniza to open the season, and that was a really, really fun matchup. Yuma Catholic will be playing Peoria, Eastmark playing Buckeye, Thunderbird, Bradshaw Mountain, Arcadia, Coconino. Nika Mountain against Snowflake. Snowflake, a team that we always see make it in to a state championship game. So don't count them out at number 14. We know how that can go. Northwest Christian against Walden Grove. Lee Williams at Arizona Prep, College Prep. And like I said, Canyon del Oro at Poston Butte. I think it's a good time to bring in. We've got 2 guys joining us from Canyon del Oro. Little background on them. We've got Sakiley Woodard. He is an offensive lineman, defensive lineman, and Caden Luke, the center over there. How you guys feeling this morning?
Good. How's it going?
Good.
Good.
So I'm just going to jump into it. I know that, throughout the season, your focus is what game is next, but I'm sure you've paid a little bit of attention to the brackets and the fact that you were kind of sitting in the open for a little bit. What were your thoughts this morning on now the opportunity to compete in a true 4A bracket?
I think for starters, obviously, as you mentioned, we got to look at it a little bit, even if we're trying not to, it's still going to be presented in our face, given our situation, so I just think, the experience was really cool for our team to get to, have the opportunity to do that. And then alongside, following up with this morning, a lot of emotions fluttering through, not knowing if we were going to get to play, 4A football, continue to this, thing that we're creating at CDO, or we're going to have to really step it up and go play a team, in a higher division with more kids, higher competition, we just didn't know. And, a big thing that our coach really emphasized to us, as you already mentioned, Mrs. Collins, is, taking game by game, and I think doing that is really kept us focused on the angle, which is trying to be in the state championship game, no matter where that's at. Either that's the open bracket or that's the 4A division. But, just the opportunity to be in the 4A division, we're really going to make a run.
So,
yeah.
Go ahead, Spurge.
No, go ahead, Claudia.
Yeah. No, go ahead, man.
Well,
go
I was going to have you follow up, Caden, if you've got initial thoughts, emotions from this morning.
I'm just super grateful to kind of be put in this position. The fact that I think it's an honor to be even considered to go into the open. I mean, it being in the 4A, I think we're just super grateful for everything.
And I was going to say with that for both of you too. So obviously that's been the external discussion, and I know internally there was things going on about where are we going to be. It doesn't matter, like we're going to play. Now knowing that you guys are in the 4A playoffs and you have maybe this extra, I don't know the word for it, but there's like an extra target on your back, maybe because maybe some other 4A teams are going to be like, oh, people thought this was an open team. Well, we're going to show them. Like, how are you guys going to go into each game and just make sure you manage expectations and take care of business? Because you guys are a team that on paper should be at Sun Devil Stadium, but obviously you take it 1 week at a time.
Yeah, I think if we just take it one play, 1 minute, 1 second so one game at a time, I think we'll do just fine. We'll surprise a lot of people and kind of just do what we do best and play ball.
To follow up what Caden said, another thing that our coach really emphasizes, every team that we played, following this, playing Walden Grove yesterday, they want to beat us. They want to give us their best. We're going to get their best no matter what, because consider, quote unquote, we're the world beaters right now. And everybody that plays us really wants to give us a run for our money and show why they should be considered better than us. We got to look at that and understand, the significance of it. It's very awesome that, we're the world beaters right now, but we got to continue to follow what we know, follow our coaches, just believe and trust what because, at the end of the day, everybody's trying to take what we've built here at CDO, and we got to remember that, and we got to, put that on our chin and continue to play football, as Kate and Luke said.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys know, we've been playing together. Our core group's been playing together since probably we were 8 years old. So I think every team that kind of comes through that we play is trying to tear us apart. I think
And
that's kind of our mindset.
And that's real personal to us. We're a
Yeah.
brotherhood, and the last thing that we want is for our brotherhood to be torn apart, and that's big time for us.
I'm glad you guys brought that up because that's something that doesn't get talked about. I experienced that firsthand in high school too. I was the outsider on my team in baseball that won a state championship, but we were a team that never made the playoffs before in California. And then my junior year, we had about 16 seniors who had all been playing together since Little League. And we shocked the world with one Division I player and won the top state championship in the state of California. And that to me was always the biggest reason why. Same thing, even I know baseball's a different sport, but the Diamondbacks right now making that World Series run, like 8 of those dudes came up in the minors together. Like they've been together for years. They didn't just show up here and now we're a team. Like that's important. So you guys really take pride in that, huh?
Yeah, but I mean, you can have the skill, but I feel like football has more things than just, playing the actual sport. Like there's a lot more things that go into it. It's building that brotherhood, getting to know the people that you're going on the field with, like these people, like as Mahip said, we've been playing since we were young, these are long time, lifelong, lasting best friends that we've created here at our high school and just playing the sport that we all love. So, I think that's really awesome. You know what I mean? So I'm glad that you can relate with us on that.
Honestly, I'm also glad you brought up that brotherhood because I think that's what made me fall in love with sports was just seeing like what it can do for anyone who plays and building that bond. But, going outside of that brotherhood, because it seems like that's truly what's the meat of this Canyon Del Oro team. But when we're talking like strictly football, what makes you guys so special outside of just being bros?
I mean, well, this guy right here in the live stream with us, he's just a hard-nosed football player. He just will run you over, and that's that. And I think everybody in the 4A division knows that Caden Luke will, if you were one-on-one with him, will run you over. And that's just how it is. And, he has the stats to, follow that and bring and, back that up. I think that our team is really hard-nosed, and, we're going to run at you, and you got to stop it. And if you can't stop it, we're just going to continue to do that.
I think I'm vain. I know we run the ball super good. I think every tongue shall confess. I think there's no way anything can happen if our front guys don't make it happen. Kylie and our linemen, if that doesn't happen, nothing else on the field will happen. Too much pressure to the quarterback, panic. There's too much that goes through, and it's just a lot. Without those guys, we can't play. So,
but not only that, our defense is really good. In my opinion, I think our defense is like our bread and butter. We just are so aggressive on defense, and I think that's helpful. Like, it's very helpful to us, because if our guys can go get the other team 3 and out, and we can go down and score, we're gonna tire them out. So
Yeah.
there's a ton of things that go into it when it comes to just football, alongside just having the brotherhood. There's a ton of guys that are really dedicated to this football team, and really believe in what we're building.
I've got one last question to close us out before we let y'all go and enjoy and celebrate and get ready for the next step. But taking a look at the teams that fell into this, 4A playoffs, I know you have the luxury of going in undefeated, and that definitely boosts you. But what is maybe that one team that you'd like to go out and go for blood after?
Oh wow. I don't think there's really one team we're kind of coming after. I think honestly we're playing ourselves these
Yeah,
next couple of games. We're just playing
yeah,
ourselves. It's us versus us for sure.
yeah. Like,
It is for sure us versus us. Like there's a lot of, like we said before, there's a lot of things that play into being successful, and I think if we can make things happen up front and we can make things happen down the field, throw the ball, run the ball, our defense, and probably one of the most important parts on the field, special teams. If our special teams can get it done, I think we're just playing against ourselves at this point.
yeah, everybody can get a piece of Canyon Dough if they want to, like Kaden said, like, basically, you know what I mean? So it's not really, we don't have we don't have an out for anybody. It's anybody who wants to, come down to Oro Valley, whoever is coming down to Oro Valley to play us at 7 p.m. on a Friday night, the upcoming weeks, they're going to understand what we've built, and they're going to feel it. And that's really all we have to say. You know what I mean?
All
Awesome.
right,
So
guys.
Kylie, Kaden, thanks so much for jumping on, joining us, and talking CDO football. We appreciate you. Have a good day.
Yes,
Heck
man.
yeah.
Thank you,
Anytime.
guys.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
We'll see you guys.
All right. I think that's going to bring us right into chatting about this 5A bracket. We'll get that pulled up here in a second. I think the immediate excitement and shocker here, not shocker. We're not going to call it a shocker, because I think I would like to say, if you've watched Bleacher Talk, I said if 5A teams are going to make it, Desert Mountain is going to get into the Open. And that is exactly what we saw as this 5A bracket got released. Taking a look at it, number 1 ranked Higley will be playing number 16 Iron Ridge, Millennium at Kellis, Apollo Casa Grande, Cactus versus Campo Verde, Horizon at Canyon View, ALA Gilbert North Morena, Notre Dame Prep against Sunny Slope, and Desert Edge at Buena. So honestly, a really, really good lineup here. Spurge, who sticks out to you?
Yeah, I mean, first off, I've been hosting AZ Audibles the last few weeks with Eric Sorensen and Zach Alvira. AZ Audibles brought to you by Ortho Arizona, by the way. Shout out to them for all the support they've given us throughout the years. Definitely check out Ortho Arizona. But we've been talking a lot on Audibles about just how tough 5A is. Higley looks like that explosive team, but then you see Horizon, who has one of the top defenses in the state and 2 quarterbacks who get the job done, and they can run the ball at any time against anybody. And then Desert Edge, who most of the year we all considered to be a team that was going to be in the Open and really not be in contention. And now all of a sudden, this is a team that, in my opinion, has maybe the best shot to win 5A. You look at just those 3 teams. Cactus has wins over some of these teams as well as the 4th team. ALA Gilbert North, always dangerous. So the top of the 5A is just brutal. And everyone might want to say that, hey, if Desert Mountain was in 5A instead of the Open, they would win it. It's not even a guarantee that they would end up with a ring in 5A, even as an Open team, because this is just a loaded bracket. So I'm honestly most excited for these games the next couple of weeks. We'll see how the early rounds shape out, but once we get to the quarterfinals, the semifinals, we're going to see some shootouts. It's going to be a fun week of football.
Honestly, you've left me with almost nothing to say, because I want to echo everything that you're saying. Teams that stand out to me, for sure, Higley, obviously the opportunity to repeat is there. Eddie Zuby has done a great job over there. I think what makes 5A so interesting is these rosters are stacked. even more so than 6A, in my opinion. When you take a look at, I mean, this is coming from like recruiting roundup girl over here. So obviously sometimes that's the way I take a look at a roster is, okay, where are these guys committing or have the opportunities and offers from? And you look at Higley, you look at Desert Edge, you look at Desert Mountain, who's obviously not in this 5A bracket, but coming out of 5A. Those are teams that like I'm talking about constantly on Roundup because they've just got dudes. ALA Gilbert North, obviously Brandon Phelps is all the talk over at ALA Gilbert North, committed to University of Arizona. But don't sleep on Titan Slade either, because I've seen them play twice this season, and he is right there with him. So I think the 5A is arguably going to be the most fun to watch outside of potentially the Open, if not more. Like I'm got to tell you, I'm really excited about this 5A playoff bracket. I think it's going to be super competitive.
Yeah, and last thing before we move on to 6A, I mean, two teams there kind of in the middle of the pack. I mentioned ALA Gilbert North, the Notre Dame Prep. I mean, they're teams that we had high expectations for going into the season, and they played brutal schedules and things didn't shape out, but don't count them out making a run either. I know that the top of the top is pretty elite this year, but those teams have the talent to really, make a run. And at the end of the day, there's more than talent that it takes to win a championship, but they're right there in contention. So this is going to be an interesting few weeks in the 5A playoffs. All
right, let's move on to 6A. Get that pulled up right here. Another really fun one. We could talk about, we saw a lot of these teams move in and out of the Open and kind of didn't know where things were going to shape out, especially at like the halfway mark of the season. But taking a look at it after last night, Brophy is now the number 1 seed in 6A. They'll be playing Mesa, then Castile playing O'Connor. I'm going to get myself muted over here so we don't get interrupted with more notifications. All right. Mountain View taking on Red Mountain, Pinnacle versus Desert Ridge, Saguaro versus Queen Creek, Perry versus Mountain Point, Williams Field versus Boulder Creek, and South Point Catholic taking on Corona del Sol. This one's going to be really fun too. I feel like, honestly, say what you want about the AIA, algorithm brackets. I think they got it right this year, in my opinion. Taking a look at the teams that are shaping out, for the most part, like there's really no bracket that I have a problem with. I could get into the confusion, like I said, about 4A, like why was Canyon del Oro in and out of the Open, but now they're number 2 and Yuma Catholic surpassed them. I don't know. We're not math people. We're journalists. We like to talk. We like to write. We like to interview people and learn that way. But I think Brophy's honestly just a great example of how to turn around a program, because honestly, there was a lot of hype about the Brophy Broncos last season, and they didn't quite meet that hype and that standard that we were expecting. Well, that's all out the window this season. Jason Jewell has done an awesome job with that program. South Point Catholic at number 2, they're going to be playing Corona del Sol. I wouldn't count out Corona del Sol, even though they're our number 15 seed. I've seen them play a couple times this season, and I think when they play well, they can really turn it on. But Pinnacle, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see them in the 6A championship again. Maybe they win it this year. Super fun. But I think the one that we really want to talk about, or personally, Saguaro and Perry, I feel like they're both kind of like in this rebuild phase in a sense. Like Saguaro is obviously finding their identity again under Zach Hill. I don't want to knock their season at all because they have played arguably the toughest schedule in Arizona. And then Perry, I mean, just they're coming back into their old ways. And I feel like Perry used to be, before our time of covering Arizona high school football, Perry was one of like the it schools in the conversation year after year. And I think that they're well on their way for that. But what sticks out here for you, Spurge?
Yeah, there's a lot, and we're going to have Brock Farrell on in just a minute as well from Highland High School. You can see they're not in the 6A this year. They have cracked the Open, so we're gonna jump right into that and talk all about that in just a moment. But yeah, 6A playoffs, it's going to be fun. I think, Brophy is a team that's going to be dangerous. I look at Perry. I've been on that train for a few weeks. They're a team I think could get to Sun Devil Stadium. I see them being that good. They've turned around the program there. Coach Ortiz has done a great job. So really excited. But Claudia will come back to that. Let's go ahead and check the Open Division rankings, and then we'll bring on Coach Brock Farrell. We've got Liberty, Basha, Centennial, Chandler, Highland, Desert Mountain, ALA Queen Creek, and Hamilton. Lots of those teams have been here every single year. The matchup that we're going to all be having our eyes on in 2 weeks, Chandler versus Highland. Let's go ahead and bring in head coach Brock Farrell from Highland. And Coach, good to see you.
It's good to be here. Good to be here talking about being in the Open. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, that's where we've got to start, right? Finally, Highland breaks into the Open. As many of us, on the media side, we chat. We've been saying for the last few years, Highland's got to make it into the Open. So how are your guys feeling seeing the news this morning?
Yeah, they were excited. I was at the AIA show, but our coach sent us a video, and our guys responded the way you thought they would. They were excited, and I think we like our matchup. The 4-5s can be great. It's always fun to go play your friend. Me and Rick Garrettson go way back, so we're excited to be in the Open with someone who's been there for a long time, and excited to compete against the best.
What is different now, do you think, preparing for an Open Division game from a 6A? Is it any different? It's still the playoffs?
Apparently a week, right? So we get a week off to collect our thoughts and maybe get in the tub. So hopefully we're all at full strength and it'll be a great football game. But I think that's the biggest thing is you get that extra week. You get to play against the best. So everything that we've done well, we're going to try to do again. So there we go.
So I was at the Highland Basha game earlier this season, and that was obviously an exciting one. You guys were able to turn things around in the second half and really come back and upset the reigning Open champs. How much do you think that game impacted, your guys' confidence in what they could do this season and really your position in this Open bracket?
Well, I think it just solidified whether it's a founded belief or not that we can compete with anybody. Our kids really do believe they can compete with anybody. Whether they should believe that or not is for you guys to decide, but we believe it. But the other thing it showed is that we can compete and we can beat anybody, but then the next week we went and played Lone Peak, and if we don't play well, we can lose to anybody. So it was kind of a 2-week swing where everything that I've been telling them came to fruition. So I think it really helped that the players believe what I'm telling them because it's the truth, right? So going into this week, it'll be, hey, you can beat Chandler, but you got to play your best game. And I don't think we've played our best game yet. Basha was really, really good in terms of how we played, but I don't think we've actually put together our best game yet. So I'm hoping we can do that in 2 weeks here.
What is it people should know about this team for anyone that only tunes in for the playoffs or hasn't watched them yet? Because in previous years, it's been defensive battles and you guys have carried your defense there. But the offense this year, I feel like really took steps forward. You've got a young core there, but what is it that people need to know about this year's team?
This year's team is a lot of the same stuff that we've been hanging our hat on, which is being physical. Both on defense and offense. There's a lot of unknown because we graduated so many offensive linemen last year. But this year's group, I think, has punched above their weight, so to speak. We're still a physical team up front. Our defense is still as physical as ever. So no matter what, when you go to play Highland, you're going to be in a heavyweight fist fight for all 4 quarters. And I think we still do that. This year on offense, I think we have the ability to be explosive. Whether or not we execute well enough to be explosive will remain to be seen. And I think if we put together enough explosive plays, we'll be able to do what we need to do. If we don't and we shoot ourselves in the foot, we're also capable of that. So that's what I mean by I don't think we've put together our best game yet, where we've been explosive, we execute at a high level, and we're physical on both sides of the ball.
I've got one last question for you, and then I'll hand it over to Spurge again. But taking a look at that matchup against Chandler, you say you know the team well, you know Coach Garrettson well. What are you telling your guys? Okay, this is what we need to execute against Chandler in particular. Meaning, what does Chandler do well, and what are you out to get them for?
Well, specifically, I'm going to tell them if we don't throw a pick six, we won that game. And one of our defenders dropped an interception that if he doesn't score, we're in the red zone right away. So we had every opportunity to win that game. That's the biggest thing. So we're just going to go back and look at the film first from when we played them and see if we can clean up our end. Because one of the other things I always tell our guys is, hey, when we compete against our best self, our chances of winning go way up. When we start worrying about all the other stuff and, what are people saying about us and what's the other team doing and who's this guy and how many offers does he have, well, we get lost in the minutia. So we just need to worry about us competing with our best selves, and I think we're going to like the results.
All right, Coach Farrell, thank you so much for joining us. Good luck in the Open. The Highland Hawks, back-to-back 6A champions, getting their chance here in the Open division. So thank you for taking the time to talk with us, and we will see you out there in a couple weeks.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right.
So
that was Coach Farrell. Good stuff. I mean, yeah, we've been, kind of beating that drum for a while. And I remember before the season started, there was, I think, Eric on our team, Eric Sorensen, wrote an article about storylines to follow this season. And the thing I wrote was Highland is going to be the 3-time defending 6A champ unless they beat one of Basha, Chandler, or Lone Peak. And when they beat Basha, yes, I think there was a point where they still weren't in the Open based on how things shaped out. I thought it was a guarantee they'd get in, and now here they are breaking through. So they're obviously excited. This is a physical team that it can match up against anybody. And like you said, they haven't played their best game, and at times maybe they can't beat anybody, but they can compete against any team in the state, and they can beat any team in the state. So that's a team that not only is going to be in the Open, but could end up at Sun Devil Stadium once again in a higher division. Like, that is a real team that has a shot to shock some people.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I hate to keep going back to that Basha game, but I think it was a good lesson for really any team that they might play as they potentially progress through the Open playoffs, that you don't sleep on them. Even if you're up at halftime, that means nothing, right? Because they can come back and they can, I mean, any team can do that. But I think that game was a real indicator of the competitors that they are. Another fun matchup that I want to point out, number 1 versus number 8, Liberty Hamilton. That was a tough game to kick off the season, and that's what's going to kick off the Open, the number 1 and number 8 seed. Hamilton was kind of questionable if they were going to make the Open this year. There were a few weeks there where it wasn't looking that way, but obviously the thing I do like about the algorithm, and we talk about it on Bleacher Talk all the time when we're in quick picks, strength of schedule does mean something. When you're playing the best teams and losing against the best teams, it doesn't necessarily indicate, the potential that you have. It's just you're playing the toughest teams. You're playing out of state teams that are ranked nationally. So I am very glad to see Hamilton make the Open. I think this Open shook out pretty like I said, along with the rest of the brackets, this all makes sense to me. That Chandler Highland matchup, we just talked a bunch about that. That's going to be fun. Centennial Desert Mountain. Don't want to count out Desert Mountain. I saw Centennial Liberty last night. Spurgeon and I both were out at that game. Centennial's going to make it far if I had to guess. That's where this gets tough with the okay, does the Open still need to exist, or do we want like a true, 4A, 5A, 6A champion? I think it can go anyway, but I think we should jump into predictions before we've got to get off of here. And so, Spurge, I'm going to hand the torch to you first. Which 2 teams do you think we're going to see play for an Open Division championship? And of those 2 teams, who do you have winning it?
Yeah, I have to reiterate too. I mean, I do think these are the 8 best teams in the state. I think they got that right. I think the order is there. We had precedent with a 3-loss team making the Open last year in Saguaro, and we saw what they did. They made a run all the way to the the Open Championship before losing to Basha. So I don't quite know if Hamilton has that same run in them, but I'm not going to count them out either. I mean, Liberty is blown through everybody, but maybe that's something where Hamilton has something up their sleeve. We'll see. But if I'm looking at it now, I mean, Basha, ALA, Queen Creek, I still think Basha has a really good chance to win the title, but ALA Queen Creek could beat them too. Enoch Watson is, in my opinion, the best pure passer that I've seen in the state this year. He is a playmaker. He can make things happen. I saw probably the play of the year when they were playing against Pinnacle, and he got hit as he threw, and then he caught the pass and ran it into the end zone to win the game with like 17 seconds left or something like that. Like, you can't count them out either. They've gotten the Open as a 4A team. They've gotten in as a 5A team. Now they're in as a 6A team. And each time they've competed, at least for a half, they've competed against teams like Hamilton before. So can't count them out. But right now, Liberty is going to get to the Open Championship. I think Liberty is going to win the Open Championship. Who they face, I'm torn between Basha and Highland. Something tells me Highland's going to get there. I rolled with them before they played Basha and said they could beat Basha. And even at the time, I said I think Basha would be the reigning Open champs and they would defend their title. But something tells me Highland is going to get to Sun Devil Stadium against Liberty. That's what I'm going to roll with right now. It might change to get to the games, but initial reaction, I think we're going to get Liberty and Highland.
I absolutely love that pick. Gave me goosebumps. I think we would all love to see it. I'm going to go ahead and make my final prediction, and it's one that I've been simmering over for a little bit. Liberty, couldn't disagree. I don't think most media members that have had the chance to see Liberty this season will disagree. Liberty's going to make it into the Open. I would have to guess that that's how things are going to shake out. I've got to go Basha. So I think Liberty Basha, talk about a fun matchup. You're going to see two of the best quarterbacks in the state if it turns out that way. Navi Bruzon is so impressive, so quick on his feet. Demond, we all know Demond Williams Jr. We saw him last year. I think that would be super fun. But if I was picking a winner, I think, you remember last season, I was like, it's Basha all the way. I think I got to go Liberty if I'm picking our Open champions. But I have no favorites in the game. I am just excited for really solid Open division, just playoff football in general. I think we've had a really fun season leading up to this point. Everything shook out to make this a really exciting couple of weeks ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be, if we get that matchup, Basha's had their ghosts against Liberty in recent years, and I could totally see them overcoming that. I mean, seeing how they play this year, and they won a lot of close games. That is the one thing I will say about Liberty. The only close game they played was against Centennial in California, a nationally ranked powerhouse year in and year out, and they ended up losing that game, not holding that against them whatsoever. But in state, the closest game they played was last night against Centennial, and they won, 36-17. So they haven't played a lot of close football games. And I'm not saying that's going to come back to bite them, but in recent years, they have lost very, very close games in the playoffs. Lots of overtime matchups. They had back-to-back years against Chandler in the Open that went to overtime. So not saying they're going to. I think, last night Colin Thomas told us the experience is there. They've learned from that, but that is something to watch for because close games are going to happen in the postseason. And when you haven't played a lot, it might be something that your team has to be ready for that maybe they're not, but I think they are. I'll leave it at that.
I'll close this out on this note. I said it in quick picks. Anytime I've chosen against Liberty, it has bit me in the butt. It did last night because I was trying to be different. And I think I just need to be done not betting on Liberty for the end of time, I guess. So, anyways, I think this is super fun. Excited to see how playoff football plays out. Definitely keep up with us on Bleacher Talk. We'll be having that this week, as always, with Bruce Cooper and our quick picks. Spurgeon is still in the lead, I believe, after last night. Reigning champ going after it again. Tune in to Bleacher Talk on Wednesdays at 10:05 on sports360az.com. Thank you so much for anyone that tuned in. We're excited to have had you here, and let's get to the playoffs.